There was a meeting in Rome from 1962 to 1965 called the Second Vatican Council. A council in the church is a gathering in of all the bishops. And there were 2,800 bishops at that particular meeting for 3 years. They came for sessions in the autumn and the spring, each of those years, 62, 63, 64, and 65, under a pope called Pope John the 23rd. Fast, roly-poly, genial John the 23rd. The good Pope John, as they called him.
Yes.
And the result of that meeting was this sudden hurricane of change and abandonment of what had been done for 1,500 years. 1,500 years, Art. The change was so violent.
Similarly, if you look at the church between 1965 and 1975, suddenly Catholicity disappeared. Suddenly. Priests left, nuns left, suddenly bizarre ceremonies took place, suddenly every practice like devotion to the Sacred Heart, to the Immaculate Heart of Mary, confraternities, sodalities, St. Vincent de Paul work, pilgrimages, benedictions of the Blessed Sacrament, the habit of visiting the Blessed Sacrament, children's First Holy Communion, marriage, abortion, contraception, homosexuality, everything was turned upside down. Suddenly, the reservoir of Catholicism suddenly was sucked out, disappeared. And the only theological way you can look at that, theology, not historical, in the secular sense, is that God withdrew grace. God withdrew grace, sanctifying grace, without which you can't be Catholic. That's the overall view of what happened.
What has happened in the last 35, 40 years? What I think has happened, the Roman Catholic Church, of which I'm a priest, and a faithful priest, and I say it deliberately so that you know I'm not in any sense rebelling against it. I'm a part of it, and I say my Mass every morning and do the usual things a priest does. The fact is, I think that once the churchmen of the Roman Catholic Church drifted into grave error after the Vatican Council, I think Christ said, okay, you want to go that way? All right. I'm not with you. And he withdrew his grace. And therefore we have this devastation of Catholic marriages, this devastation of Catholic religious orders, the major ones above all, Jesuits, Dominicans, Carmelites, Holy Ghost Fathers, all devastated. And the lack of cohesive theological thinking and philosophical thinking in the church is glaring and discouraging. Christ withdrew his grace, and that was his decision in view of our infidelity, because our churchmen were unfaithful and are unfaithful to him. I think that's where we are, but we still can have his grace. We can receive his body and blood, and we can be protected by the angels and the saints, but now we're in a battle.
Now the biggest plague, the biggest triumph of Satan is the destruction of the Mass. Because without the Mass, without valid priests saying valid Masses, being ordained validly by validly ordained consecrated bishops, we have no Mass, we have no Blessed Sacrament, the presence of Jesus is wiped out.
As far as organization goes, as an institution and an organization, the vast Roman Catholic Church is on the down slope. It is losing steadily and heavily, and over 2/3 of its members, that's 2/3 of 1 billion people, are being led into a form of belief which is irreconcilable with the traditional essence and outlook and belief of the Roman Catholic Church as it has been for almost 2 millennia.
In what way?
For over 30 years, the majority of the governors, the directors, the managers of this organization have been feeding a form of belief which is not Catholic, which has made compromises on basic doctrines, which therefore have led the faithful astray in their beliefs.
At the present moment, a sizable majority
of people are in apostasy, have been led into apostasy, and a sizable minority of cardinals, bishops, priests, and religious are in apostasy. They no longer profess the basic truths of Christianity. Forget Catholicism.
Anybody looking at the church today can see in the facade, in the appearance, all the elements that were there in 1950. Pope, bishops, cardinals, priests, nuns, newspapers, seminaries, diocesan newspapers, institutes, publishing houses, missions, orders, religious orders of nuns and priests. The facade is there. The terrible thing is, what most people cannot allow themselves admit is that it is an illusion. The organization as it was then does not exist now. There's an illusion. The institutional organization that functioned then, that kept the Pope coagulated with the bishops with the priests with the nuns and the people, and a whole flow of obedience and command flowing up and down, carefully nourished in doctrine and discipline and rule and punishment for infraction of rules, and kept the cohesion tight, is gone. Doesn't exist. There are no 10 bishops that agree on anything. There are no 200 priests that agree on anything. There is no cohesion about the real presence of the Blessed Sacrament, about devotion to Our Lady, about the value of celibacy, about the value of purity, about the value of marriage, about the value of human life. We're riven with it. And our people, 77% of American Roman Catholics practice contraception. 52% believe in abortion as a choice. Homosexuality is accepted by 46%. What is this? And we've just barely half going to Mass and Communion, enough to satisfy their obligations. It's not as bad as Austria, where it's 5%, but it's pretty bad. And we have rife homosexuality in the seminaries run by the bishops, and we have heretics teaching in the seminaries run by bishops. Come on, the church doesn't exist, and Rome can't do anything about it. Mr. Ratzinger, Cardinal Ratzinger, knew nothing about it. The Pope can't do anything about it. They know it all. It is the destruction of the institutional organization, the visible structure, but it's a very insidious destruction, because the structure is left there, standing. There are cardinals and bishops and priests and dioceses and parishes and universities and schools and emissaries and meetings and conventions and congresses and synods. The whole thing, seemingly, what are you talking about? The structure is still intact. But nobody except somebody very prejudiced would even think of saying that that structure is Catholic in the sense it was 30 years ago, 40 years ago. Pius XII couldn't stand a structure like that, nor Pius XI, nor any of the early popes, up to John XXIII. So the question is, what's happening? Why is that happening? Why isn't Rome doing something? Hasn't Rome got the power? The answer in shorthand, in simple, brief terms, is this. Rome itself has been corrupted. The bureaucracy has been corrupted. There is resident in the Vatican bureaucracy, small and limited as it is, but all-powerful, there is this anti-church partisanship which is out to change the face of Catholicism. And the church they envisage is something completely different. It's not a church centered in the Roman pontiff's rule. It's not a church which is centralized in Roman authority, jurisdiction. It's a Rome which heads a collection of autonomous communities bound together by ancient tradition and by sentiment.
The Fatima secret is something that was written down by the person who received this secret information back in the 1930s and the 20s. And the person who wrote it down is still alive. Her name is Lucia, and she's a nun in Spain, in Coimbra. She's a Carmelite nun. And it's called the Third Secret, and it was sent over to the Pope, and according to the instructions that Sister Lucia got from the Blessed Virgin Mary, she says and claims, and we all accept it, it was the Pope of 1960 who was supposed to reveal the secret and follow out the instructions, do what it said. The Pope of 1960 was the good Pope John, the 23rd. He refused to do that. He refused to obey Our Lady. He refused the mandate of heaven. He refused to publish the secret, and he refused to do what it said.
Wow.
And consequently, we're in trouble. That's roughly the third secret. Now, what's the third secret? It's rather a dire document, ma'am. It's not pleasant reading at all. I'm under oath not to reveal the actual details of it because I read it.
You read it?
I read it. I can't break my oath in that matter, but it is not pleasant reading at all.
Does this involve a chastisement?
Yes, several. The prophecy of Fatima is not a pleasant document to read. It's not pleasant news. It implies, it doesn't make any sense unless we accept that there will be, or that there is in progress, a wholesale apostasy amongst clerics and laity in the Catholic Church, that the institutional organization of the Roman Catholic Church, that is the organization of parishes, dioceses, archbishops and bishops and cardinals and the Roman bureaucracies and the chanceries throughout the world, unless that is totally disrupted and rendered null and void, the third secret makes no sense. And number two, the other salient characteristic about it is that it means intense suffering.
I don't know what the
believers.
I don't.
One from a friend in Australia, Father,
Yes.
Who says, I had a Jesuit priest tell me more of the third secret of Fatima years ago in Perth. He said, among other things, the last pope would be under control of Satan. Pope John fainted, thinking it might be him. We were interrupted before I could hear the rest. Any comment on that?
Yes. It sounds as if they were reading or being told the text of the third secret.
Oh, my.
It sounds like it, but it's sufficiently vague to make one hesitate.
Yes.
It sounds like it.